Hey everyone, welcome to today's October 2nd community meeting. We've got a few really cool guests on today, including both Georgie and Thomas Pulber, who have been with Maker for a while and have attended some of our original community meetings back when it was just 15 people and they're talking about tons of interesting things. And here we are now with also around 15 people. But great to have you guys all here. Rich is going to go ahead and give a few of the technical updates as well. But we're super excited about San Francisco Blockchain Week, which is coming up just around the corner. If we'll see anyone at ETH SF like we did at ETH Berlin, we'll be very happy for that. We're offering some API prizes there. And moving on to DevCon, we're going to be participating in a hackathon just before that. So if you guys want to go ahead and hack with us before DevCon, please do reach out and we'll make sure that we interact while we're there and get you all sorted. Rich, do you have anything you'd like to go ahead and bring up?
Well, yeah, I can jump in really fast just to say that this last week was amazingly quiet for MakerDAO. There was no earth-shattering announcements, no major partnerships to announce. So from the online world, there's lots of things cooking, but nothing ready to talk about yet. I hate announcements of announcements, but next week might be interesting, so we can talk about things then. But I think for me, not much to talk about. So maybe, Lenka, I know that you have some things on the go, as usual, so maybe you can jump in. You're muted again. There you go.
The same mistake again. Hi, everyone. Yes, last week in Copenhagen, we had Tech Barbecue, which was a summit with thousands of participants. I was standing at the stand in a blockchain corner, and we had a special guest over there, the Crown's Prince, His Royal Majesty Crown's Prince Frederick joined us, and we had Rune to welcome him and to explain what we do at Maker. And I think this was really cool because it basically means that also the royal family interests has an interest into these cool technologies. And although there were several stands at the blockchain corner, we were the one that actually he stand next to and ask questions and discuss with us. So that was pretty cool. Yes, this week we'll be having two events. One will be a finance conference with PwC on Thursday morning, and then we have a stablecoin event in the evening. So Rune will be busy again, giving talks about Maker and presenting to different audiences. So we'll be quite a lot on the ground this week as well. And yes, we're preparing for the Prague Blockchain Week as well. But I think, Rich, you will have some more to say about this, right?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. It might wait for the next meeting because, like most blockchain conferences, everything's happening at the last minute. And I think that we've just begun to see what the actual agendas are from the organizers yesterday or the day before. So next week, I think we should dig into some of the cool things that we're doing at the Prague Blockchain Week and then see if we can get the community a bit more involved. But there's nothing really to report this week, I think.
Okay.
All right. Mariano, did you have anything for us today?
Sorry, guys, I was muted. No, I don't have any. I'm working with Jess to have different graphic materials for the events that are aligned with our current web design. I'm also talking with Angel, our awesome graphic designer, and hopefully 2 weeks, I guess, that we will have something to show you guys.
All right, sounds good. I think that, yeah, it turns out that this is kind of a slow week for MakerDAO, so I'm not sure it's going to be a long meeting. But Jess, maybe you want to kick off a guest for us and we can have a chat?
Yeah, totally. So we've got some incredible guests, speaking of events, both Thomas and Georgie, who were both at ETH Berlin and gave a lot of help and support to Maker there. Thomas, do you want to go ahead and start for us and tell us what you do at Maker and how you got involved and how it's been?
Yes, I'm Thomas, aka Geronimo in the chat. I'm working on the Oasis team as a designer. Currently as a designer, but I'm like in hybrid who's doing all kind of stuff. And I think my major role at Oasis and at Maker is product design and product management for the Oasis product line. We currently have 2 products. One is called OasisDex, which should be the professional decentralized exchange version, and Oasis.Direct, which is trying to be this product which is as simple as possible. And that's very hard to achieve in the cryptocurrency space in general, to have something which is just simple and just works. And yeah, that's what we do. And we are very proud with Oasis.Direct. So we have two next versions defined for Oasis.Direct. There are small improvements, but OasisDex is now our project where we put most of our dev resources in and try to make something which was never out there. One of the big main features will be decentralized margin trading, which is also very difficult to achieve because no one else already delivered something like that. So me as a guy who's trying to focus on user experience and UI interfaces, actually need to deliver something which was never out there, and that's not that easy, you know.
Can I ask you a quick question? So this is something that's been a constant source of frustration for me since the very minute I got into crypto, almost a year ago. So I guess I'm still kind of new, but the inability to margin trade on DEXs, and it seems like such an obvious piece of functionality that anybody in the DEX space should be running towards, but nobody seems to have gotten there yet. Are there any specific challenges that need to be overcome? Like why has nobody done this yet?
Well, you need first build a system which kind of provides the functionality to do margin trading, and that means like either taking loans or put up collateral. So we, as a first community who actually built already something, like a team which actually can deliver this kind of functionality first.
So is it just understanding how to handle escrow accounts or loan accounts is what's useful, or are you going to be actually using CDP infrastructure in order to make the margin trading work?
Exactly. We're going to connect our front end to the new multi-collateral DAI system. We thought about already doing it for single collateral DAI, but we would waste valuable dev time for that. So, and the Coven version is already deployed, so it makes sense that we work on the multi-collateral DAI system. And we that's our main focus, to provide margin trading with actually the DAI.
That's fascinating. I actually wasn't aware of that you're literally using the CDP engine in order to make this work. Does that mean that you're going to be burning Maker through this mechanism?
Yeah, totally. It's just a beautiful front end and a place where a user works with CDPs. This is the main feature actually of the new OasisDex, that we don't tell the user that we actually use CDPs. We are talking about positions and financial user interfaces. We hide almost everything. It's very hard. I'm currently working on the user interface, and I don't think it's actually possible to hide everything. For example, we are going to connect also our Oasis.Direct proxy. Like we will reuse our Oasis.Direct proxy, so Oasis.Direct will not need to set up anything on OasisDex.
That's fascinating. I'm trying to wrap my head around how this works. So the OasisDex itself will be an owner of a CDP. Will it be an owner of multiple CDPs or one large one?
This is like a security concern we have, that we specifically create a margin trading account, which will be a proxy who will create CDPs for you and do all that kind of stuff. So you will have a margin trading account where you actually deposit stuff into it. So people like specifically need to say, okay, I need to like, I'm depositing 1 ETH into my margin trading account. It's very necessary because people mess up a lot of times. So we need to educate him that he actually needs to do a lot of steps to actually create the position. That's kind of a security concern for us.
Yeah, this is amazing. I don't know how I didn't know this, because this is blowing my mind a bit. So when people open a margin trading account through the OasisDex, is this going to be a sort of a long-term, are they going to hold this account open for a long term? So, or do these CDPs get created, traded upon, and then closed as soon as their margin gets called, or the margin position is? How long term?
What kind of trader you are?
Yeah.
Everything is possible. We still need to think about how we educate the user that like their fees. The longer he holds the position, the more he needs to pay.
That's the part that's kind of blowing my mind, though, because if this becomes popular, it's entirely possible that we would see more CDP creation through the DEX than we would through the CDP portal.
I think it would blow up the whole market cap like instantly.
Oh, wow.
In my view, like there are people with tons of assets who can directly create huge positions. But I think for the MVP or for the first beta alpha release, we will set some limits on the front end, so the user we don't want to push the big guys into that directly.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about, because MakerDAO as an ecosystem is trying to be, or it's not trying to, it is as non-predatory as possible. We know that there's sharp edges, but we want people to be safe. So offering a tool like this is, you have to assume a significant amount of risk. So
right.
It's fascinating. When is, sorry, now that I'm so interested, I'm going to start asking you really uncomfortable questions. Like, so when are you guys planning on launching this thing? What's the timeline look like?
Our hope is that we will release it with multi-collateral.
Wow. Okay, this is crazy. I'm super excited.
Yeah. This is what we worked on for 1.5 months now. We have a very nice, completely new coded project, and it works much better than the live OasisDex.com version. I can assure you, a new design, but nevertheless, it will be an MVP, and there's work for the next year. So.
Yeah, I know that we've been talking for ages internally about adding margin to OasisDex. I just had no idea about the actual mechanism. So the fact that you're leveraging CDPs and that each CDP is going to be paying stability fees, and those stability fees go into buy and burn is pretty mind-blowing. That's amazing. Yeah. Mariano, you said you had a question. Did you want to ask?
Yes, in fact, I love this matter, this subject. I'm a huge fan of leverage trading. And talking the other day with a friend, we've been picturing in our minds how a CDP could be used for this. And we've been talking that, for example, something that is very an important feature in margin trading is the stop loss option, right? So is there a possibility that the percentage of debt to collateral ratio can be used as a stop loss, in which instead of, let's say, 150%, I can configure that to 120, or maybe, I don't know, to 200%. So when the losses of my CDP that is leveraging. At that point, when it hit that number, it gets beaten, right?
Right. Do you mean like the user just says, okay, my whole CDP will be liquidated at ETH
200%, for example? That's right. So that in that way, the user is like configuring the stop loss option in a decentralized manner.
I mean, the whole position liquidation will be handled by the DAI system. But one really nice feature is when a user is actually like having different types of CDPs, and the system sees that ETH is crashing, but Digix is holding completely nice. So this basket of CDPs is totally safe, and we could reuse that to rebalance the whole.
That's very cool.
That's very this was actually like the main wow awesome feature, that as soon as the user interacts with any kind of CDP, the proxy will rebalance all CDPs, so it actually gets like the best stop, like the best liquidation ratio for all CDPs.
Okay, and each CDP needs to have a different risk parameter, right? According to the collateral that they possess.
Exactly, and that's like as soon when you set up your margin trading account, we will set like the default safety parameters, but the user can always say, oh no, that's way too low. I'm setting different parameters, so the front end will know what's going on, and then while rebalancing, keeping user defined parameters. And
so when someone sets up their margin trading account, they have to configure the proxy to build the CDPs that they think are most appropriate for their
interact.
Wow. The funny thing is, in multi-correlated DAI, they don't like create CDPs; they just deposit into the system, and that's like their CDP.
Yeah, from an end user perspective, are you going to abstract all that away? Like, are they going to know that CDPs exist? Or are you just going to say, like, this is my risk parameter sliders on a page? And that's
it? Exactly. Like you say, okay, I have ETH. I mean, there will be different types of ETH CDP types. So this is another difficult task to manage as a UI UX guy. But currently, like the main focus is that users will define their risk parameters on their own.
Thomas, do you know if we are going to have like a different stability fees for different CDPs that are being used for margin trading? I mean, those CDPs are a lot more riskier than others that are not being used just as a single loan, right?
Yeah, I mean the Maker governance community will define which CDP types will be allowed or not. So
yeah, but I think that the governance will determine the stability fees, the risk parameters of the normal CDP types. But this is a weird kind of model where OasisDex is kind of its own thing. It's not governed by the foundation or the voters. So will you guys be adding some kind of additional buffer or additional like stability fee to sort of cover the chaos that goes along with margin trading?
No, we never thought about that actually. No additional stability fee, and we like I talked to Lev, which is like guy from Maker cared how much a guy in a centralized exchange would pay for position, and there are like huge differences regarding fees. If you would create a position at Kraken for 1 year, you would pay 55% fees.
Whoa!
What?
And 55%? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Whoa. And with our solution, which is decentralized.
Sure, that's because we're over collateralized, though, right? There's far less risk.
Yeah, in fact, in BitMEX, you are paying sometimes maybe 1% per hour.
Exactly.
You know.
And
It's crazy.
like,
I know they have a pretty large numbers for leveraging your position,
yeah.
but their funding rates are just outrageous.
And if you compare that with the new OasisDex margin trading, people will just pay the stability fee, which is currently 2.5 per year. And people will use that kind of stuff for sure.
Wow, this is mind blowing. I mean, as you said, market cap just can go to the roof, you know.
For sure. And then you can even like go further, and there, I don't know if people get to know the CDP liquidator project, which we done at ETH Berlin. Then like the user can say, oh man, the position will definitely will be liquidated. I will just use a third-party service which will liquidate, and I will save money. And it's like, whoa, that's exactly the thing what we're working on, like just connecting everything.
Yeah, it's
like a security fund.
Yeah, it's when you step back a bit and you look at the fact that this ecosystem is about a bunch of really clever crypto financial primitives, and then realizing how you can put 2 or 3 of these things together to make something in the traditional space would have been enormously difficult, but the pieces are already laying around. It's amazing. Right.
Cool.
Wow. That's a tough act to follow then. So I guess, is there anything else happening in the OasisDex world, or is that kind of your guys' focus right now?
Yes, there may be a chance far in the future that we could provide a decentralized exchange which will not use ETH anymore for paying transactions. And that's like, again, like mind-blowing that you just use DAI for paying. I think that makes sense.
I've had about, I think, maybe 5 different conversations with different organizations over the course of the last month, where it seems like everybody sort of just comes up independently. They come up with this great idea, like, hey, what if we didn't have to pay transactions with ETH? We could just pay it with the DAI that we had anyways. And we're all trying to come up with our own independent solutions about how to do that, whether it's meta transactions or delegation, or with financing of transaction fees, or there's even some crazier sidechain solutions that we can start thinking about that offer a lot of really compelling solutions. And it's part of one of my favorite topics of conversation is how do we support emerging markets, and if we can figure out how to get rid of this ETH transaction fee problem, then the onboarding process is ridiculously smooth at that point. So
exactly,
it's fascinating. I'm going to hit you up later to find out what you guys are thinking about for paying transaction fees and DAI, and see if it's the same thing I'm thinking about. But, all right, that's really cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about today, or did you want to leave us with our minds blown with the OasisDex thing?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Who's up next, Jess?
Yeah, thanks so much, Geronimo.
No worries.
Yeah, Georgie, how are you doing? Are you ready to blow everyone's minds too?
No pressure.
No, I'm not a mind blower. So hey everyone, I'm Georgie, Peculiarity on the Rocket Chat. I work also on the Oasis team, but I'm one of the main contributors on Oasis.Direct. I used to maintain OasisDex, but I had to move on with my life, so I decided to go and maintain Oasis.Direct. Don't shoot any hard questions. I'm not sure if I'll be able to answer you.
Well, I guess we can start from just a super high level, because I know that sometimes in these meetings we jump kind of right into the nitty-gritty, and we should probably keep in mind that some people might be joining us for the first time and they might not completely understand what it is we're talking about. So why don't you give us a high-level overview of what Oasis.Direct is all about and what it does?
Well, as far as I know, it's like the first decentralized instant exchange. So it's like our goal was to create something like Shapeshift, but completely decentralized. And right now we are like earning even more scores because, as far as I know, they like require you to register, right, in order to use their service. And typically for Maker, we try to decentralize as much as possible. So we will keep our promise It will stay decentralized. It will give you the possibility to exchange. So far, we support like very few tokens, like MakerDAO and ETH for now. It's super easy. It happens very quick because we abstract all the unnecessary details, and the user just like go there. He or she just decides to exchange some ETH for DAI, and in a single click of a button, voila, you're having your DAI and you sold your ETH. So, and we're like trying to improve it to give more functionalities. As Thomas said, to keep it simple, but at the same time functional for everyone. So yeah, you can expect like cool features. We are trying to be as much transparent as possible.
That's the trick, though, right? Like the whole proposition here is that you just click 2 buttons and then submit, and then you exchange one currency for the other. But how do you add more functionality, and what functionality is that you're thinking about?
Well, as I said, we're trying to be more transparent. So initially, we kind of it wasn't hidden, but it wasn't very clear what proxy was. Right now, we are adding a new functionality which allows you to create proxy manually. Also, we are giving you the functionality to have binary allowance from the UI, so you don't have to rely on some other application.
We should probably explain that. So tell us about the difference between setting allowances and binary.
Well, initially, I don't know. Initially, you can set a given specific amount that someone can transfer on your behalf for the given token, right? And
yeah, I think that in the old days, nobody trusted contracts or ERC20s in general. So the idea was that if a contract wanted to do something on your behalf, you'd set this cap to limit the amount of
exactly. But actually, first it was very tedious work, and also like you set like 10 up to 10 DAI, and you send like up to 100, but you're paying fees and etc. So in order to ease the whole process, we decided to have this binary. So either a user is allowed or not. And the thing is that it's theoretically, practically it looks like this, but theoretically it's not, right? It's just like it's set like super high value. It's like the highest possible value for the given type set on the contract side. So at some point in the future, you might have to give the allowance again, but this will be like after like quite some time, because the value is like super huge.
So we talked about, or you touched on it earlier, and I think that there might be a question for Thomas as well, but frequently we get asked why, excuse me, why do we limit the tokens that we are willing to sell on OasisDex and OasisDirect, or not sell, I shouldn't say that, allow people to trade on OasisDex and OasisDirect. What's the process for getting more tokens in there, and what's the plans for that?
Thomas, you want to take this, or I can like give answer with my limited knowledge to that?
Wait, you never have limited knowledge. But there are few reasons why we are very picky with tokens. Just in general, we don't think there are a lot of good tokens out there which we want to support. First. Second is liquidity is very important, and currently DAI and ETH are those tokens where market making is happening a lot, and with that we can provide the easy instant exchange on OasisDirect. If we don't have liquidity, people will lose more money because the order book is not filled, so the prices, you can push up prices very quickly. That's why we actually introduced like the price impact indicator. So as soon as you pick MKR, which is not very liquid, people with a bigger order could actually push the prices up, and we want kind of protect the user and
Well,
show
they
them.
didn't have in the past, unfortunately.
Exactly. There was one guy who exchanged almost $500,000 in one transaction.
Yeah, I still feel sick to my stomach when I think about that poor guy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I guess the issue here is that on OasisDex side, it's fine to have low liquidity, I guess, because people, they know they just need to wait to find the price that they like. But on the Oasis.Direct end, if there's low liquidity and people aren't paying attention, then potentially they can hit a spread that's ruinous, kind of thing.
Well, frankly, I also think that it comes to the quality as well a lot, because I don't know if you guys are aware, but there was like this functionality on the contract that you were able to whitelist tokens. So it's not like we stopped supporting them, but we decided, as Thomas said, that I mean, we wanted to enlist only the good tokens. We wanted to be curators, right? At some point, frankly, at some point there were like the request for new tokens stopped. So I don't know. I haven't seen a request for a new token for a while.
Is there a... Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, is there a possibility to get liquidity from other dexes through like OX or Bancor, and then use that as sort of leverage to list new tokens?
Well, as far as I know, I mean, like in the future plans, this is for future releases. In the near future, we plan to have combined order books, meaning to get different liquidity providers, combine their order books to provide higher amount of liquidity. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we consider that.
Yeah, well, David raises a great point, because this is something that's sort of plaguing the whole DEX world in general, is that people have built these UIs and then they've created their silo of liquidity, and then they're competing for liquidity essentially. So is there a movement in the space to increasingly share liquidity pools and then just compete on the UI? Is that the idea? Thomas, or anybody?
Okay, well, can you repeat the question again?
So we kind of have this problem in the DEX world where liquidity is basically what's holding us back, right? If somebody wants to do high volume trading, or they want to trade a great deal of crypto, they have to go to one of the major players. But in the DEX world, there's frequently limited liquidity. If you look at the average trades through some of the DEX analytics sites, you can see that there's one or two, like IDEX or Ether Delta, I think, is still super popular. They have the vast majority. Actually, I think the vast majority, and then us, which is amazing considering the limited selection of tokens that we have. But and the problem here is that for all the other players in the space, they're trying to entice people over, but they have no liquidity, so they can't entice people over. So there's this increasing interest in mechanisms that allow these DEXs to share liquidity pools. The idea is there should be one or two, or whatever, global liquidity pools, and then the rest of the market sort of competes on the UI and functionality on the front end. So do we have plans to, like David said, do we have plans to create some relationships to share liquidity pools? And is that something we're focused on?
Yeah, as I said, like in the future releases, this is exactly what we're trying to build, to share like have like a shared liquidity pool between curated liquidity providers. So, and the idea is, like, as you said, to compete on the UI level, on the front end level, on the interface level.
Do you have any idea of when we're planning to roll something like that out? Is it 6 months down the line or next year kind of thing, or is that soonish? Or?
Well, you know, sometimes things pop up with higher priority. We shift our plans. So
I guess after 6 months.
Yeah, around there. Cool. That's interesting.
For OasisDirect, after having like 2 small feature releases, we actually plan to create a native mobile app, which is actually mobile. That's our aim. Yeah.
Not just squished up in smaller.
No, mobile.
Yeah.
And
but that's where is it possible to do OasisDex in a mobile UI, do you think?
Yeah, that's what I try to achieve. Like I started the designs for mobile first, and then move over to desktop, just to make sure that I'm trying to make it right on mobile. because with tables, it's not easy to actually deliver a good mobile experience, but we will see how this will work out. What I just wanted to point it out is that the Oasis team in general is strongly focused to provide services for the DAI system. And this is our main focus. And we don't like, we needed to, we would shift our focus to like combined order books or anything like 0x. There's a big team who's actually focusing on that problem, and we don't want to do that. We defined our focus, and that's providing actually good services for DAI, and with that, the next tokens will be collateral types. So as soon as Digix is coming out, we will do everything possible to provide services for Digix.
It's interesting. I hadn't really considered that aspect of it. So obviously, we would want to prioritize accepted collateral types through the DEXs as well, create some liquidity there. Interesting.
It's very important for us, for Maker, that there is liquidity for collateral.
Right on. That's interesting. So one of the things I wanted to ask, and this is sort of out of left field, but there's kind of this traditional UI that most DEXs are adopting. You know, like there's the left-hand pane, and then there's the nice huge graph, and then there's the trades happening in the bottom somewhere, right? But the OasisDex has its own sort of very distinctive UI sort of paradigm. Is that something we're sticking with, or are we gonna try and adopt more of a traditional sort of look and feel?
I try to. I know, like there are fanboys out there who really like the plain, simple white design. I try to get some stuff over to the new design, but with margin trading, it will blow up everything. Like it will change tremendously. And the reason why everything will change is we try to have a consistent action flow. So people who create orders will do almost the same thing as they would create a position. So that's actually like good UX if you give the user the chance to learn one thing and then reuse this kind of learning, so they don't need to learn all kind of new stuff. And that is our aim, to have a consistent UX and UI.
Do you know what? There's another thing. I'm going to throw a random question at you. So, is there anything on the roadmap to allow people to export trade histories from Oasis.Direct?
This kind of question is coming up every year.
Yeah, I think I've asked you last year before I started working at Maker.
we actually have an exporter, and I think it still works. Like it should be. We don't want to maintain it anymore because we don't have dev resources at all. So I don't think we will push it to the public.
So is that something that you're looking to the aftermarket to take care of then? So something like delta balances, you're hoping that they'll take care of this kind of thing?
I hope, yeah. If we are going to expand the team itself in the next months, then maybe we will provide something like that. It is actually very useful. I agree. Like I was a guy who tried to push that project in general, and I'm still curious why no one actually provides such kind of service for all decentralized exchanges. It seems like a very easy business model, but I guess no one cares about taxes.
Yeah. But didn't that already exist on Oasis.Direct and then it got taken off?
Yeah, it got taken off. I think. Wait, what was the reason? It was like we had some problems with fetching because we introduced those proxy.
That's a third party. Sorry, just cut you off. That's a third party app that does it. So.
But is that only for Ether Delta?
No, you select whatever exchanges you like, and they support OasisDex. Okay. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, surprise.
So we don't need to provide that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I did not know this existed. Thank you, Rich.
No problems. It's it re-indexes the blockchain basically, and you have to configure how far back you want it to go, how many blocks. But if you have the time and patience, it will kind of figure out what you did.
I just hope they include the proxies, which actually interact with the just hope that they think about OasisDirect, because we don't actually trade with the wallet address of the user. We trade with their proxies.
Well, maybe the best solution now is that somebody from the OasisDex team should just ping these guys and make sure that they know how to do it correctly, and then we don't have to worry about it. All right. I think that unless anybody else, excuse me, unless anybody else had any questions that they wanted to throw at the Oasis team, might be heading towards the end of the meeting here. Unless there's something, and also if there's something from the Oasis team that you guys particularly wanted us to all know about today. So I just sort of threw questions at you guys. Is there anything else? I think that. Sorry, Jordan usually peppers us with questions. I just want to see what it looks like. Yeah, he's talking about the tax exporter that still kind of exists. If you dig into it, you find the link. It's still there. The good old surge.sh. Like, I don't know, boys. Got too many of these things laying around. You're gonna have to clean that up at some point.
That's true.
All right. Okay, I think that we might actually be at the end of the meeting then. So. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for the insight into the Oasis team, Georgie and Thomas. That was brilliant. I'm still gonna try and wrap my head around this mind-blowing margin stuff.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. I'm gonna put an end to this one, and then I'm gonna upload it to YouTube. So if you guys want to get a recap or tell anybody else about our amazing plans for margin trading. Point them at that.
Definitely.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.